And how much a minute takes. All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. It's Crystal Lake Township regular board meeting on October 17th, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Roll call when you're ready.
Ferris.
Here.
Nielsen.
Here.
Northway.
Here.
Hot. Here. Van Meter. Absent.
Our clerk was exposed to somebody who had COVID, and so she is not here tonight. And so even though Sandra, the deputy clerk, cannot vote and participate in the discussion, as if she were the clerk, she can do errands for us, like take the roll call at votes and things like that. So I have an agenda in front of you. It needs some amendments. I'll go ahead and say that under reports, elections, we got a late resolution to approve the election workers slate. So we'll be adding that. And under the ARPA funds, just so you know, there are 3 different documents, and the Metro Act came in late. That was just discovered on the desk, and so that will be voted on as well. So it'll be the agreement for funds, it'll be the fiber shed and the Metro Act. Under review and updating the ordinances, we're adding an ordinance, the hazardous spill expense recovery. They told us that the only way to get rid of an ordinance is to have another ordinance. And so that's what that is, quick and easy. And then, does anyone else have any additions? Did I forget any? With those amendments to the agenda, I move that we accept the amended agenda. Do I have support?
I'll support that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed. Thank you. And at this time, is there any conflict of interest to be declared? Let the record show there's none declared. We have minutes in front of us. Lengthy. Anybody have any?
There comes Corey's
I'm sorry, could you say that out loud so we can all hear?
under the airport, Chairman Corey Carland, his name should be spelled C-O-U-R-Y.
Okay. Anyone else?
I want to know a little bit more about Fred Ock. There's in correspondence, there's a thing here about donating for
Right, a tree, or I forget what she wanted to donate, but yeah. It's a widow of the brother, and Fred was the founder of our endowment for the North Cemetery.
Okay.
So that's who he is, or was.
There's also a request in here for funding for invasive species and stuff like that. And,
Right.
And I wonder if we could link those together, but it sounds like she already has a cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other corrections to the minutes? With that one correction with the spelling of somebody's name, I move that we accept the minutes as presented. Do I have support? Any other discussion? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, say aye. Aye. All those opposed. Thank you. Next is correspondence. There are 2. The first one is a letter from Jane Perino that we all know and love. She's been here, worked at the Conservation District for years now, and she asked for a letter of support. I won't read the letter to you. Obviously you've read it. And so I just want a consensus right now. Should I go ahead and give that letter of support?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. On the back, Gilmore Township, something written to the clerk. She shared it. Gilmore Township is preparing their master plan. And so it's just a letter advising, this is pretty standard stuff to send to other townships and so forth, that they'll send us a copy, we review it for them and give any feedback. So those were our two pieces of correspondence for the month. Any questions about those?
It sounds like they're asking us to do their plan.
No, they already have done it. We just look at it and we say, looks good, doesn't look good, we object to that, we found this to be troublesome, just give them feedback, that's all.
All right, thanks.
Fire and rescue is next.
I'll go ahead.
Okay, county commissioners, ladies first, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Karen Cunningham, District 3. I have a long report that was sent to you and it will be on your website if it isn't already. But I did want to remind Crystal Lake Township about the 30 October town hall meeting to discuss the Headlee Amendment. That is going to be at 5:30 p.m. at the county building. So please come to that if you have questions about that, and we really do want your input. I also want to let you know that on 30 October, Senator Bumstead will be at the county building at 10 a.m. in room 206. And it's really just to get to know you or for you to ask questions. There is no agenda per se, but that gives us opportunity to meet and speak directly to our state senator that represents us. So I want to encourage that. I have something here for Cherry Capital, but we have Tim here, so he'll be answering questions on that or entertaining comments. I was out of town for 3 days. I attended the Michigan Association of Counties conference, and I spent time going to cybersecurity, AI, and a few other things, material management, because those are questions that I get a lot from constituents here in our county. So I attended all of those, and I found that one of the things I went to was that Michigan has received over $181 million for 27 critical infrastructure projects to date. So I was very happy to hear that number. It didn't give a breakdown as to where everything was, but the state did get in a good influx for correcting infrastructure, bridges, roads, whatever it might have been. I learned that cyber attacks, the 3 top ones that are being attacked and very susceptible are local government, hospitals, and education. We learned that the average ransom for local government or any of these 3 is $214,000 ransom to be paid to stop the cyber attack or to re-engage. So that was very, very interesting. Material management plan. There is a meeting coming up for the various counties here. It is a state law that we will have a materials management plan for the county. Either we will do it in-house in county, or Eagle will do it for us. If we do it in-house, then we get $60,000 to write the plan. And if we work with another county, adjacent counties to us, they tack on an additional $10,000. That is renewable, from what I understand, for 3 years, that we would continue getting that money if we write our own plan. Lake Township had a presentation from Chris DeGood, who works for Beckett.
And Raider.
Raider. For the non-motorized boat launch. And then the second thing, there was a very long discussion, but no decision made on the code enforcement officer concerning how to enforce for short-term rentals and beyond. So I found that interesting. And really, it was just listening there. There's a lot of other things that I have covered in the report. Please reference that. A pleasant thing was, I went to the ribbon cutting for 50 Grove Place, in which one of our librarians from Frankfort is a new homeowner. And her partner Ernesto, so unless there's questions from the board, yes.
You're having this meeting about Headlee, and I guess the county would decide whether they want to roll back the Headlee, right? It would be
Roll back, reset.
the people. Now, if it passed, I mean, what do you do with the surplus funds that are suddenly there? Like, for example, our township, I think we were at 1.2 mils for our operating budget when Headlee started. And now with Headlee, we're down to 0.65. So that means we're gonna go from 0.65 to back to 1.2, right?
What we're going to do is, it's a town hall meeting.
No, I know you're not deciding, but if it was
Correct.
voted for repealing the Headlee amendment, then, for example, our township goes from 0.65 or whatever, we're lower than that now, but back to 1.2, which is where it was. So we would double the amount of money that comes in for that. And that seems like that's not probably a good idea, because everybody's been getting along with what they're getting, and now you suddenly get twice that.
Well, it depends, and that is what the discussion, the commissioner, yeah.
I know.
And so we need to have that discussion there at the open house. I'm not going to give an answer on that because we haven't.
No,
had
I
the
know, I realize you
discussion
don't,
yet.
but I'm just bringing up that point that, every government entity, if we did vote to repeal it, we get a lot more money just overnight.
We don't have to.
Oh, I know, we
We don't
don't-
have
we-
to levy that,
we don't
it's
have to
up
levy.
to, we can,
Right.
whatever the budget demands.
But if the road commission or somebody,
What the budget demands and also services.
Mhm.
And that's why we want to be totally open and have discussion and have a variety of opinions there for it. I mean, that's what this is. And our administrator, we used to have a booklet, I'm not quite sure when it was written. But it had in it kind of bullet statements explaining the Headlee. All of the commissioners looked at that, did our little corrections or suggestions in it. And that is being reprinted to hand out as an educational piece. So
well, that's good. I just encourage everybody to come to that meeting.
absolutely, and that's why I've mentioned, and I appreciate your support on that, because tacit consent, people really just be part of the process and share your opinion on it. So on the 30th, 5:30 p.m. at the county building, we're really hoping that the public shows up with their questions, suggestions. We can have civil discourse on this and do what the county wants us to do. I take very serious that I'm a representative, a voice, when I sit on that board for District 3. And part of the Benzie team, But yes, but please show up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Our membership is holding steady. We've seen the lights and fire trucks go around the corner and head out of town. Yesterday morning was, we bid Roy O'Grady a farewell as he's on his way to the Air Force Academy. So his parents took him all the way down to Lansing and he's being processed. He probably flew out this either today or tomorrow. Be flying out to San Antonio for basic training.
I went through the Medina Annex, yes, I did.
Our team meeting results, pancake breakfast is now behind us, the numbers were a little down from last year. We had about 165 attendees. Some people, and I put this in my notes, is that what we do with some of the money, they say, well, what do you do with that money? Well, basically, our furniture wore out, it was used when we got it. So we purchased new furniture, we're finally in, because a lot of people spend, no, they stay overnight, so they lounge, they sleep in the lounge, and then we get that, our tools we needed tools, real bad for our shop area, so we bought tools. So we didn't have to go to the taxpayers and say, hey, buy us some tools, buy us furniture, buy us that, we purchased that out of those funds. We're still going door to door in Frankfort to talk to residents about the November village, it's gonna be on their ballot, it's coming up. As you see by our training report, we'll be doing a lot of specialty training, especially like, we had one of our members 4 days straight up to Empire to learn how to be sawyer, which is how to properly use a chainsaw. Some of the safety, if you look at the run report, the numbers are, again, they've gone up. What really surprising is so far what we've had so far this month. We've actually, to date, as of today, we've had 21 EMS calls and 11 fire calls for the month of October, a total of 32. If you take a look at the numbers overall, we are down 37 runs from tying last year's record. Crystal Lake had 9 EMS calls and 1 fire run, and so far this month. So we've had 10 right here in Crystal Lake, followed by the city at 9 and 5 for Lake Township runs. The safety message that I provided. The days are getting shorter, and yesterday we had a call to Casey Road, and our almost right to the month. The deer jumped out in front of Ford Medical in that brand new 2022 Chevrolet Suburban. Took a deer, but it didn't do much damage, about almost $2,800 worth of damage, so. Precision gave me an estimate, not processing that, but it's drivable and it's just got some fur hanging off. But other than that, it'll do the job, until we get it in the shop, hopefully we get parts. Another thing I pointed out is Halloween's coming and we all hate this. We're gonna go through an hour change on November 5th, so let's not forget about that. We get an hour extra sleep, we're gonna stay to work an extra hour, which is not fun. Equipment building updates, all the fire hoses were tested, nothing failed, so they all passed. The ladder truck is concerning me right now because when we had the elementary there, we had the lights on and we were taking pictures and then all of a sudden smoke starts coming out of the dashboard and we're trying to figure out why that happened. So trying to get, we tore the dashboard apart looking for wires and can't find anything. We applied tonight for a 2% tribal grant or permission from the board to apply for the tribal grant. We'd like to get a Lucas machine. We had a Lucas machine, but Benzie MS, basically, since they got the grant originally for it, they took ours back and have been using it here, the other one. The Lucas machine is a chest compression machine. What's nice about that is that we actually, last week, we were over here at the trailer park and we were doing CPR and it wasn't an ambulance. We were doing CPR on a patient for 15 minutes waiting for the ambulance that was flying lights and sirens for months and get here to go pick up that patient. So that's something that it's tiring to do CPR for 15 minutes. It's really tiring. So if you have a machine that you can just have it do the work, that's great. Bad news is they are about $21,000. Well, we're going to 2%, which means we're asking to try for 20,000 of it, and or 22,000. We're asking to try for 20,000, and then we'll eat 3%. Or instead of 2%, we'll eat the 3%. If they give it to us, we're actually want to put more skin in the game. Hopefully, we'll get it. Community relations. I just hosted the kindergartners. It was Fire Prevention Week. I started out kindergartners through 5th grade at the fire station, and We mixed it up this year with kitchen safety messages, pictures on trucks, hose rolling, bucket brigades, and all kinds of contests. We were challenging each other. That was fun. Especially the rolling hose, they loved it. They liked carrying patients all over the place. We had a dummy, they were carrying the patients all over the place. And no, the dummy wasn't me, it was the dummy. So, tomorrow I get the preschoolers, there are 60 of them coming in, and we're gonna be rotating them in from 8:30 in the morning until about 11 o'clock. So, and that's gonna be cleared off the area in the meeting room where it's gonna be stop, drop, and roll, and it's gonna be what's hot and what's not, and what may be hot, what seems hot. Go through that, and I'm gonna take them to the Anstey City Fire Department, again, loan us their public safety trailer, and it's parked inside, so it's cold or rainy. And I'll take them to the little bedroom kitchen in there, because this year's fire safety message about safe kitchen safety, staying away from the stove. And basically, try to drive that message home to the little ones. But they're gonna be more interested in climbing all over the truck, so I'll let them climb all over the truck, and the teachers love it because I like to wear them out. And by the time they get back to the station or back to the classroom, they're ready for nap time, so it's quiet.
Any questions for Mike?
Yeah, I attended your pancake breakfast Sunday and it was quite good.
Thank you.
I was surprised there was more than pancakes. They had eggs and bacon and sausage and the only thing that surprised me, was very good, was the 91-year-old lady who took all the money.
Yeah, Yeah.
She was quite a showstopper.
yes, she was.
She did a good job.
Yeah. Oh,
No. That,
yeah. Oh, that was entertaining, yeah.
And Mike,
She asked to volunteer, and I said, sure.
one more question.
Yeah.
Our flag alley out here in our flagpole
Yeah.
is just about it's hanging by a thread.
Hmm.
If that thing breaks, can you guys help us string a new alley down here?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you notice, we got the ladder truck got out on ours and took it off, because it's actually not type of plastic wheel, like a pulley,
Yeah.
and it bound it up and it just started cutting the thing, and we're right now got it over at Charlie Thompson is gonna replace it with a brass or stainless steel one, so that we can last longer.
Just give you a
Yeah,
call.
give me a heads up. Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
definitely.
Thank you so much.
Yep. And you'll excuse me, I'm gonna head on home, it's been a long day.
Take care. Public comment at this time. Anyone wanna, when you get up, announce who you are and where you live?
Jeff Jaworski, 1874 Pilgrim Highway. I noticed that the township is considering some more, what I would consider some ill-advised, additions, alterations, changes to zoning regulations. In particular, this idea that, something that might be historic has to be in fully operational condition. I don't know of too many people that pursue a passion or a hobby of restoring cars or tractors or boats who go out and buy a very expensive, fully restored vehicle or boat that's been done by somebody else. Most people will put it in their garage or under a tarp in their yard, and it's a labor of love, finding the parts, restoring the parts, reassembling this thing. Some people might just consider it a thing of beauty if they go out and find an old 1935 John Deere tractor. It looks great just the way it is. Flakes of paint, rusting, the effects of time, the patina on the metal. That's what makes their sense of place and purpose come to life for them, and they want to see it sitting in their yard. I grant you, somebody else might drive by and see that tractor and say, there's a piece of junk sitting in somebody's yard. Somebody else might drive by and say, hey, there's a tractor I could restore and make it look just like it did when it came off the assembly line in 1935. None of those people are wrong. To one person it's junk, to one person it's an opportunity for an awesome 5-year restoration project that will be a museum showpiece, and for the other, who wants to just see it continue to enjoy the effects of time and environment. All three of those people are right, and all have a right to pursue what they want to enjoy with that particular artifact, be it historic or non-historic. For the township to pass a judgment to say that you either have to have the means to buy that thing brand new so that you can turn the key and start it up, or go plow your field, or drive it to the museum show, is not the township's place. That's a huge invasion of personal right to use your property and to pursue your own passions and interests as you see fit. And if the township's gonna tell me that I have to have my boat or my tractor in turnkey operating condition to be qualified as historic, I don't have to have it inside my barn or whatever, then that you're getting into the realm of gentrification, because only certain people can afford to buy that thing brand new restored or to pay somebody else to restore it. And most people, like I say, I just came back from a trip to the National Archives and I stopped with some rural friends in southern Michigan and watched their tractor restoration operations. And their joy is in the process of restoration. Paying someone else to restore their tractor is meaningless to them. So how is it that the township can say to residents in the township, no, sorry, you don't get to enjoy that. We're insisting you gotta go pay somebody else to do this because it has to be in operable condition. I think it's a really an ill-considered a change in what is already, I think, overbuilt infringements into our personal property uses here. And, you know, I'm a tree-hugging liberal Democrat. I've always said this township's gonna turn me into something else if things keep going, but in any event, I think it's a liability risk for the township. Don't wanna waste any more of my taxpayer monies or my personal money.
Thank you.
on these challenges.
I appreciate that.
All right.
Other public comment at this time? All right. Thank you.
Thanks
And
for the time.
finances, you're welcome. Finances, first, the reports. Any questions for the treasurer? Who does those? Second would be the, I've got the, warrant report. Anybody have any questions about that? I'll go ahead, or would you like to, Brooke?
Go ahead, I'll support.
At this point, you should have the one that has, the most recent, I don't think she put the most recent date on this, but, it's the one that has the numbers for general fund 9287.54. Is that what copy you have?
No, the most up to date is $9,287.23. And cemetery fund should read 4,700, excuse me, 478.55. There's a 31-cent error in each, so that was to be corrected.
I see, that's great, okay, and I've got those numbers, so in case you didn't. Okay, and then, the fire fund remains the same.
Correct.
And, I'll go ahead and move that we accept the, warrant report to spend and pay the bills for the general fund, the cemetery fund, and the fire fund. Do I have support?
I support.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Northwind.
Positive.
Yes.
Gilson.
Yes.
Karen.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now, moving right along, we've got reports. The airport report, it's not really an airport report, but it's.
As I explained, I wasn't able to attend the regular meeting, but I did go to the MAP meeting on September 20th, and somebody is, the letter will help you understand what MAP is and what, some of the things, how the process works. So I attended the meeting with Corey Carlin and Dick Bear. And this letter outlines how MDOT and the FAA work together with our airport on an annual basis. The airport license is issued on an annual basis, and the Frankfort Airport still has a provisional general license due to the air encroachments. So therefore, we had to meet at MDOT Aero down in Lansing to discuss the airport's plan to resolve the license deficiencies. The annual plan for the airport is called the Airport Capital Improvement Program, or ACIP. Projects are called concepts. So after Frankfort Dow resolves its license deficiency, it would like to focus on revenue generating concepts, such as possibly a new hangar to increase rental income. The airport hangar would qualify for grants for that. And ultimately, the goal would be for Frankfort Dow to be self-sufficient. Any questions?
All right, any questions, none? Buildings and grounds, you're up.
I think you're referring to, out here, we had some brush cleared. We're gonna plant a few trees, probably flowering trees along the roadway out there. Where we had the brush cleared, already planted some daffodil bulbs for the springtime. So, you know, we're looking at trying to brighten the building up a little bit from the outside. Then the second item on the list is the door purchase, that closet right back here underneath the clock. We're going to put a double door, a lockable double door on it, and we're gonna store our election equipment in there because we're kind of out of compliance as far as how we store our election tabulators. They're gonna be under lock and key in that closet back there. I believe there's a resolution to be voted on for that door.
Yes, you have that in front of you?
Yeah, the only other thing is, update on Robinson Road, we had, an issue with a tree up there. We resolved that issue, but we looked at getting the survey done on that property, so I contacted Crystal Surveying over the last couple of weeks, got an email back from him today. And because of the slope of that property and the difficulty in surveying it, he's quoting between $2,500 and $3,500 to do a survey on that, so. It's up to you whether or not you believe that it's worth it, but that's what he's quoting us. Now, I could go to another surveyor and get another quote, probably what we do next. But so that's just an update.
It's my understanding the family is willing to pay for that.
No, that's the tree. The tree is all resolved. We're looking at our property up there, that parcel we have that's on that hillside,
Yeah.
potentially getting it surveyed to prepare to sell it. So, you know, the first survey quote was pretty high, so I think I'm gonna go to the other surveyor locally here and get another quote. I'll do that this week.
Do you want to take time at this point to discuss that survey?
Discuss doing one.
To discuss it? I know in his email, I don't know if you got it, it was at last minute just today. The surveyor is Smedwick, right?
Crystal Surveying.
And he says, in the last part of his email that he could start and see how difficult it is. And then if he says, you know, I can't find any pins, I'm gonna have to, you know, belay down the slope and things like that, we could stop it. So that's a possibility, to
But
see.
he didn't give us any idea what that would cost.
Well, he said if it was the worst case scenario, it was 25 to 35, right?
Yeah, but just to look at it, preliminary.
Yeah, he didn't give us an idea for
I
that.
could follow up with him and find out what he would charge for that.
Yeah, why don't you, do that and see what another surveyor says, and we'll put this on the November agenda, is that okay?
Yeah, we just need to do it before it gets snow.
I know,
We'll be sliding down that hill.
yeah, it won't be fun.
What we really wanna know is that, I know it's steeply sloped, you really wanna know what the south end, I guess, is the beginning of it, right? That's the high point. Is there a building site up there? Forget the rest of the
When you
hill.
get to that property line, it's like straight down. I've been up there and looked
So
at it.
there's no way anybody could ever build up there.
No, it's totally not buildable.
That's what I wanted to
There's no
know.
value to the taxpayers.
Is it also landlocked?
No, actually, there's a road on top. It dead ends, it's Hilltop Lane, dead ends right at our property. And then Bluff Road used to go down the side of the hill, but that's pretty much gone over. It's the family that had the tree taken down are using that road still.
Okay, so we're gonna put that on the, agenda, and you're gonna get
Follow
a
up.
couple more numbers for us, and maybe we make a decision then.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other B and G here we've got is for the door. It says, if you've got it in front of you, it's just, we authorize to conduct business and take claims against the township. We've adopted ordinances to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our residents. We need to, protect our tabulators and our supplies. And state law requires that all election tabulators be locked up. And so whereas we need a double lockable door, Crystal Lake Township therefore agrees to purchase a lockable double door. Pay for the labor for installation plus paint, hardware and trim at a cost not to exceed $600. Do I have support?
Support that.
Question I have is on paying for that, is there money out there with security and update on elections and things like that there's grant money out there that would pay for this?
Don't know.
Right now, the grant monies that we can get is for, we need to buy another tabulator. We need to buy another computer.
That's about $10,000 right
That's
there.
10 grand right there. Benson is granting some of the money back. We will not recoup all of it.
Well, I know, but I mean, whatever we can recoup.
Right.
But I
It
mean,
won't
we
go-
tried to get this as part of that, this door.
I don't know. I'm not the election person and I think Judy, that's a good question to ask
No,
her.
I'm just saying, it's just like the Metro Fund or whatever, different funds, if we can not use general taxpayer money. And there's another source of funding, we should always look at that.
Well, why don't I ask the clerk? We're gonna go ahead and authorize the purchase though, right? Maybe not.
No, we can, yes, I do.
About reimbursement, I can ask her and see what she says. Judy did, while we're in discussion here, Judy did worry that you hadn't asked enough. And I thought you had a cushion with the 600 number.
There is.
Is there?
It's fine.
Okay,
The door's like $300.
okay. Any other further discussion? Go ahead and take roll call, please.
Pop,
Yes.
Northway,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes,
Nielsen,
Yes,
all right. Elections, we have another, motion in front of you there. It's, to approve the slate of election workers. They're listed there. Apparently we, used to do this. But we, for the first time, did it right, and we also had the election commission, which are the three officers, the supervisor and clerk, and do this first. So now it's coming to you, it's their recommendation. So, I don't know, I'll go ahead and move that, that we Board of Directors approves the appointment of the election commission, the following individuals in their respective roles for the special election being held on November 7th, 2023. Do I have support? I support. And any discussion?
yeah, question I have, maybe the clerk has to be here to answer, it, but this election coming up. Is it necessary that do we have, there's one item on the ballot here in our township, and do we have to be open for 90 days?
not till next year.
Okay, well, so next year, it comes into effect next year. Does that mean for any election next year, even if it's open? So if this election.
Federal and state,
Pardon?
federal and state.
Alright, with this election we're having for the road commission, that's the only thing on the ballot next year, but that require 9 days of voting.
That would be up to the county.
What?
That'd be up to the county.
Okay,
Right now, the Prop 2 covers federal elections and state elections.
Alright, I just wondering, I hate to have people here for 9 days for voting on whether they're gonna vote for the road commission or not, to renew their millage. Alright, thank you.
But it could change. It's changing daily.
Okay, it's changing daily.
I'm gonna go ahead and call a roll call for this.
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah.
All right, Northway,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes,
Barron,
I'm gonna say no.
Pop,
Yes.
Okay. Next, after elections, we've got enforcement. Crystal Larry, you wanted that on the agenda, Brooke?
I asked for it, yes. I was hoping we'd have some sort of update from the attorney about the ordinance.
Which ordinance would that be?
Crystal Air, their ordinance.
No? If he'd done that, you would have been copied on that.
right, but I think that if someone were to read our minutes, next week, whenever they come out, and they were involved in that process, they would want to know that we still have it on our plate.
And talk to the representative over here.
But we still have it on our plate, and last time it was a question of, well, what are we waiting for? And it was for, we need an enforcement mechanism. And I think you've asked the attorney to give us a timetable on when we think he can come up with some sort of enforcement ordinance or mechanism. And so I just wanted to be able to have in our minutes that we're going nowhere, we're still waiting for the attorney.
I guess so.
Okay, well, I hope it's in the minutes that we're still not forgetting about that issue there, and we're still waiting for our attorney. And last time we talked about, if we didn't get anywhere, we need to get another attorney.
And I think you were the search committee.
Pardon?
You were the search committee.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
You were on the search committee for a new
Yes.
attorney.
All right, well, that's on the agenda later. isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
So, okay, so, next is the newsletter. You've gotten that. Go ahead and, I move that we accept the newsletter as presented and we get that printed with the tax bill coming up. Do I have support?
Support that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed. Next, actually, I misspelled protocol. I spelled it like alcohol. It has no H in it. So that'll be corrected. Next is the planning, and zoning, agenda item. First off, we've got Greg Wright, who needs to be reappointed to the planning commission. And so, I'm gonna move that, I'm gonna nominate that, trustee. Actually, that's not right. He's not a trustee, the CLT, what shall I call him? Committee member, PNC, what do I call him? The planning commission, PC,
Planning commission member.
just PC member, Greg Wright be reappointed to the Crystal Lake Township Planning Commission for a 3-year term. It should have started last month, September, and it will go through September of 26. Do I have support?
I support that.
Any discussion? Why don't you take a roll call vote for that? Or do you want me to?
Jointon, Pop. No. Ferris,
Yes,
Nielsen,
yes,
Barclay.
Yes.
thank you. And now, Tom, you want to present your logs that's
Well.
was included?
You have my report, I guess I would just ask if there are any questions. It's been let's say a banner year, we've had more applications this year than
Yeah, huge.
going back through, when zoning came back to the township in 2010. Oh, banner year.
Any problems?
No. No, we have a couple, there are a couple people that have come saying they want to, submit for a variance request, but they haven't completed any application at this point, so I don't know where they are with that. Other than that,
All right, and it's a very nice report. Thanks for doing that. Any questions for Tom? All right, roads?
well, that was on there because I talked to the road commissions multiple times in the last 6 months about getting Marquette Court and Birchwood Terrace paved. Apron, I mean, is an exit or is an entrance is M22. And it's been difficult dealing with it, and the ex-planning manager there has retired. And has slowed stuff up, but about 3 weeks ago, after our last meeting, I called him up the very next day and he said that he would send somebody out to look at those and give us an estimate and send it to us. But he wasn't sure it could be done this year because they've been delaying so long.
And who was the guy who said that?
I'm trying to, it's hard even to hear him on the phone, but it's not, they haven't elected or appointed a new manager yet. So this guy's name is Troy something.
Okay,
And he said that they went out there and looked at it, and he thought to do Birchwood Terrace and, Marquette Court would only be no more than $5,000 each. So I said, that sounds good to me. And then he mentioned that, he wasn't at all sure they could get anybody to do that this year because they're too far along. And I told him, I don't care, you know, you get it done this year or next year, it doesn't matter to me, but.
Okay.
I said, please send me an estimate, those two estimates, I got to our township, so we can put that on the agenda to vote for it. And I thought he did send it, nobody notified me whether. Next time I talk to him, I'm gonna say, send it to my email too, because, you know, I need to get it, I need to know. So anyway, regardless of that, it's not, you know, obviously it's not gonna get done till next year, but it should be done next year. But I've gotta go back and tell them we want a written estimate. We know it's not the final dollar amount because it's an estimate. At least give us, so we know when we make our motion. You know, we'll spend up to whatever, $7,000 per road to do it and do it this year or next spring. So I will call them again tomorrow and try to get something sent here, but I would ask whoever sees that to send me a text that you got it. So I know.
Sounds good.
All right,
Any
that's
questions for Doc?
all I have on roads.
Next, welcome Tim back, Tim Malone, Malone, so sorry, nothing like butchering somebody's name. The first document that we're gonna talk about is the, general agreement, fiber optic broadband network construction agreement. And that basically, I call it the, agreement to disperse the funds. Would you like to address it first? Everybody get that in front of them and,
This has been reviewed by legal. We made a few changes for them. It's a pretty straightforward agreement. The criteria is that we have the staking sheets, we have the permit. We bought inventory for the project, prove that, and the money would be distributed. I made an error. I thought it was 100,000 plus interest, which I thought, but what you actually got for ARPA was that 101. I was just trying to figure out why it was 100,000 here and 101 there, but other than that, it's and we are, you know, very close to getting permitting when the inventory arrives, so it would be a pretty close. The county did contribute 351,000 for the additional work going towards the tower on an $800,000 build, so we'll move forward with it here in November. We're hoping to get here by Christmas, but we'll see. Hopefully the winter is a little slow, but get here.
yeah.
But straightforward one that's modeled on the 351,000 that the county agreed to.
Does the board have any questions about this?
No,
If we do find a typo or two, like just straightening out somebody's name, if things like that, is there any objection that we correct the typos without changing any substance whatsoever?
sounds good.
All right, so I'll go ahead and move that we, as authorized representatives of the parties, that we execute this agreement for the Benzie County fiber optic broadband network construction. And do I have support for that?
Support.
Any discussion? One of the things that we were confused about is about the interest, and I thought it was probably something that the board should decide whether we give them the interest as well. You sent me a whole explanation, but I think it's still voluntary, isn't it? We can keep the interest on the ARPA funds if we want.
The 101,410 is the amount that we received.
And haven't we had it in some interest bearing account?
Right.
So is that a board decision that we give him the extra?
There's no extra. The 101,410 is what we received from that's the total, not including interest.
I know. Can we vote to also give him the interest? Or do we keep it? Who makes that decision?
How much interest are you?
That's what I asked you.
I would think we
Ferris.
should just give them whatever he gave us, 101, whatever, and
Right.
we keep the interest.
That's what I'm asking.
I'd like to just vote on the 101, whatever it is.
Right, the agreement's written up
Yeah.
and this
It
is
is.
what I'm voting on.
I know that. That's why I'm asking though. Isn't that a board decision that usually we would make as a group instead of somebody deciding that?
Deciding what?
I'm not following you.
I talked
So-
to the clerk and to you through the clerk about, and I got the message back that, no, we did not want to give them the interest, that we were keeping that. It was a clause that was in there originally, and I asked for the amount plus the interest, and I didn't ever get an answer. So that's what I'm asking.
We didn't have the ARPA money earning interest, it wasn't in a separate investment product. It was with everything else, so I don't know specifically what the interest is. I haven't made any decisions without the board. What I supplied to you, because you didn't communicate with me directly, what I thought you were asking is reporting of the interest. So there.
No, I just kept asking, what is the amount of interest so that we
Well,
can
that's
figure
not what
this
was
out.
asked of me, so there was a miscommunication and in the
I asked
future,
the clerk,
right,
she's in charge of that.
no. But okay, so maybe in the future, communicate directly with me, so I know exactly what your questions are.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other discussion?
When was that money received?
3 different occasions,
3 different occasions,
Mhm.
and so I'm assuming it was put into a bank account.
It was put into the my class investment accounts, yes.
So interest would have been being generated.
Yes, but it was with all the other, it was with the fund balance, it was all in with the other general fund. Yeah, so we received on 3 different occasions, it was, October 20th, 2021, January 31st, 22, and, June 30th of 22. We received 3 different amounts, and yes, upon deposit, they were put into the investment fund.
I know, yeah. Okay, so, any further discussion? Let's take roll call, please.
Ferris,
Yes,
Nielsen,
Here, yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
the second one we're gonna talk about is what they call the shed or the cabinet agreement. And this is a little bit more problematic because we had advice from our attorney. And the attorney basically confused the hell out of me. Said that he didn't want us signing an easement because that was permanent. And we didn't think it was something that it wasn't something he thought we wanted. And he's sent over a lease agreement. But I won't go through the backs and forths, and there was quite a few. But then he said that in order to have a lease, which is what he recommended, we had to have a land split. We had to do a land split of this parcel. So this is,
Because it was more than 20 years, because it was more than 1 year.
yeah.
But
So
then
that.
they made it a reoccurring 1-year lease, so.
So this is what we've come to, and I think it's no problem at all, because first of all, in here, you'll notice that the lease is for 20 years. But then it basically, as Tim just alluded to it, as it's a 1-year lease, the way it's actually written up, and it'll be renewed 20 times. In other words, at the end of any year, we can get out of this.
With 1-year lease.
And so we're kind of jumping through a loophole, a semantic loophole here. But this is the only problem that I think that we're encountering here, and I think that Tim and I buttoned up every other thing. Again, there's a couple of typos, formatting things, absolutely nothing to do with substantial, meanings. So if you have read this, do you have any questions? Then I'll go ahead and, Tim, would you like the opportunity to address this?
So basically, we're, again, in having the shed, which we marked out for a couple of weeks, I'm not sure if you had a chance to go look at it. It meets all the zoning setbacks, was reviewed by Matt Bryan's, requirements, so it was well attended. I did bring a picture of the power pedestal and the HUD that's out there in the propane tank. We'll put the propane tank back in the shrubbery so you don't see it as obvious. But we want it to be inconspicuous, so the only thing that'll be on there is an address. We'll give it a separate address off of Airport Road. That's already been issued by the county. It's in exchange for high-speed internet, telephone, dial tone also. So I know you're changing telephone system, but if those phones are compatible, which I'm sure they are, it won't be, but we'll supply if there is an issue with that. We're also supplying power for a parking lot light. We talked with your electrician about what they need for that. And then we'll do a free hotspot, secured, that is separate from the township. So if your election or anything like that's on the township broadband, it'll be totally separate and no way for somebody to hack in or do that. It's a basic agreement like we did with Inland Township and every other township we have. I appreciate your consideration.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move that, we accept, this cabinet and equipment space lease and easement agreement between Crystal Lake Township and Cherry Capital Connection. And that, we execute this, starting on this day, which would be the 17th of October, 2023. Do I have support?
Support that.
Any discussion?
On exhibit C. Is there a, this service we're providing, the internet and telephone, whatever, is this agreement term limited, or is it, I mean, is it renewed periodically, or is it remain in place?
It remains in place as long as the lease is active.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
as
what,
long as the lease is active.
yeah, that's,
I see it's warranted labor for the term of the lease, so if everything else is gonna be provided as long as the lease is in place. So like 30 years from now, we're still gonna get internet here, unless we get rid of it.
or you renew, you say, I want this.
All right, okay, that's my
It's,
only question.
We look at all these things as partnerships. We're part of the community now. We're servicing all the homes. So we want it friendly, well, positive atmosphere.
All right, I have no question.
Any other questions? All right, I guess roll call.
Yes, Ferris,
Yes.
Barclay,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes,
All right, and then we have the third agreement, which is the Metro Act. This is the thing that was just presented the other day, so I can't attest to it, but Tim, again to you.
Yeah, the Metro Act is just a procedural thing. We dropped it off last meeting, got shuffled and discovered it before the meeting. It is essentially, if you do no action in 45 days from when we submitted, it's automatically approved. It's what telecom does rather than franchise agreements. The wording in both the application and the bilateral agreement is straight off the Michigan State website. It's a version from about 3 years ago. I haven't really gone to the site since then. It's the same one that Frankfort just approved because we're entering into Frankfort. Basically, the township owns the roads. And so this is a mechanism that the state says you have the right, we have the right to use the road. You're giving us that right. We can't use them without a permit from the road commission, but it's your approval. Once you file it with the state, anything we put in the right of way, other than the state road, they do their calculation and you get some Metro Act money back. We don't control how much they bill us or how much they allocate to you, but it does get you in that system. Which is a good thing.
Okay, so, we're not signing anything. You've
So
already,
there's a bilateral agreement that's in the packet. The bilateral, you and I both, or you would authorize the township supervisor to sign it or the clerk.
so
And
that's how I should word it, the motion.
yes, for the township to enter into a bilateral agreement with Cherry Capital Connection. That's what
To apply, for a permit from the Metro Act.
so the Metro Act application results in a bilateral agreement, so you're approving the bilateral agreement.
All right, so I move that, we enter into a bilateral agreement with, Cherry Capital Connections, or Communications, and Crystal Lake Township that will result in the application, for a permit from, through the Metro Act. That includes a $500 app.
Yeah, you don't send that $500 to the state, you keep that.
Okay.
And then the state collects all the fees once we start using the right.
And, so, you are authorizing us to, as, legal representatives of the, township to enter into that bilateral agreement. Do I have support?
Nice. Or
Any discussion? Roll call?
Nielsen,
Yes,
Pop,
yes.
Barrett,
Yes.
Barclay.
Yes.
All right, I think we did all the business.
Thank
I
you for all
need
the
to-
effort, there's a lot of people involved in helping to bring this to the table,
Um,
much appreciated.
we'll get the clerk, she needs to sign all this stuff, you and I will talk and we'll see when she can come in here and all that good stuff. May have to be sorry, it's not so formal. That's not the check, right?
Yeah.
Do you have the permits? There are
Yeah,
certain
we
things that we're
submitted.
supposed to meet.
Yeah, we
for that.
submitted all the paperwork for it.
Okay.
Do you have the $500 check?
Mm-hmm. I gotta have her sign all that stuff first. So I'll get that to you tomorrow. And then, going along in this, it's, the review and updating of ordinances next. And I'm sure you don't wanna have to sit through this, Tim, you don't have to stay. for
Out of
that.
courtesy, I always say.
That's very nice of you. The very first one we're gonna work on is, the nuisance one. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna jump ahead. We're gonna do an easy one first. Why don't we do the hazard spills one?
and any ordinance we do requires a discussion amongst the board. And I think we ought to have everybody here when we do that. Because, I mean, so I thought everybody was gonna be here tonight, if we're gonna discuss this, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think that the two big ones are gonna, there's no motion to adopt them yet. We're just discussing and trying to get back feedback.
But even the discussion, I think, ought to be amongst everybody if we can, because, for example, if we were all here and discussed the ordinance we wanted to pass, like tonight, I would say that we need to, I listened to everybody else here. And even though we may agree on everything, I would not vote for it for another month. Because I think I need a month to listen to what everybody's saying. And I wouldn't want to vote it on that night, without waiting 30 days.
Yeah, that'd be nice to give those to the two other board members. These are just, additional, things that happened. And so we'll get to that when we get to the nuisance, but I thought we at least, and you may decide to not, to vote no on this because you don't think this, has, everybody's attention, but this is just to rescind the hazardous spill expense recovery ordinance. We had one. It was passed long before my tenure. And apparently, since then, a higher court in the state of Michigan has said that it was unconstitutional. And it was held up again in an appellate court. I think that's what he says on this side of the ordinance. And he said the only way to get rid of an ordinance is to have another ordinance. It's kind of confusing, so it should say repeal of the hazardous spill expense recovery ordinance. He's the one who gave me this wording. I just wrote it just like he told me to. Section 1, repeal. We have a hazardous ordinance there. It is repealed in its entirety. Effective date, it shall become effective the day following its publication in a newspaper of general circulation. So what you're voting on here is to adopt this ordinance that repeals the previous ordinance, and that we get this in the newspaper as soon as possible, get this off the books. So I'm gonna go ahead and move that. Do I have any second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Northway,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Yes.
Nielsen,
No,
Okay, so now we're doing the two others, which are, you wanna take nuisance first, and you see that the treasurer just today contacted the lawyer, and I underlined some of his answers in red. So that should inform you for making a decision a little bit later. And then the second lawyer, Wendling, got involved, and that's on the back. And he is confirming what the first lawyer, Brian Graham, said. So this is not a zoning, first of all, that was something that Jed misspoke. This is not a zoning ordinance. The nuisance ordinance is not. It's a police, how do you say it? Police action, police enforcement, yeah, police ordinance.
And so what is the section for that?
He in his original, and you've got this in your packet. This is my question, these are his answers, and he says, if you would like, I can also put something in there about noise. And so I said, if we put something about noise.
So this goes with the nuisance ordinance?
Yes, and so that's one of the things we'll be discussing tonight, and we can discuss it now. Do we want to add as a prohibitive activity, excessive noise?
Absolutely not.
I gave you. I'll give Tom credit, gave me what I distributed to you guys tonight. And that does address a lot of these issues about police versus zoning.
Mm-hmm.
And where, for example, the zoning ordinances are grandfathered in, the police ordinances take into effect immediately as soon as they're passed.
Right.
And then you can't be grandfathered in. So anyway, I just wanted to point out to you that whether you've read it or not, I don't know, there is some information that Tom gave us.
Right, so that's, but we're talking right now whether we want to incorporate noise. And the treasurer immediately said absolutely not.
Well,
So
so
any further?
how do you measure the noise? There's no measurement, there isn't, so if you hear a noise, it's violating this ordinance. I mean, I don't see how you can enforce this.
I don't know either, except he says that this is a template that he uses all the time and that it is enforceable because it actually says that it goes on, he talks about the things that make the noise. It's because of its volume, its frequency, its shrillness, unreasonable annoyance, and so forth. So he's the lawyer. He said this is a nuisance and that it is.
Well, if I could interject, I have to agree. I read it very quickly and there's gotta be more,
Right, there isn't any
Parameters.
substance to this at all.
because pretty much everything he says is subjective.
Okay, and so is that something that you want me to ask him and say, something more measurable?
You could delay that, tell them that. We don't want
I would,
to add that.
I guess I would say only pursue that and spend the money with the lawyer if you want a noise ordinance.
Right,
If you
that's
don't
what,
want a noise ordinance, then
I
don't
don't
bother to
think,
spend the money.
I don't think we need one, I don't think we've had a call for it. But before we go any further, are we going to get a new township attorney? I mean, why are we going through all these ordinances if we are going to get a new attorney that may have their own ordinances that they prefer?
Because government goes as slow as possible as it is. To make it even slower
Well, I
would not, would
I think it'd be
delay
prudent
lives.
if we didn't waste township money on just because, well, this is here, so let's pay for it. When, because a new attorney, I've got to believe, with their own ordinances, you know, they would prefer their own.
Is that,
So-
is that for all the ordinances? Cause we just gave him 20, including the one that has to do
Well,
with Molyneux Road.
right,
So is
yeah.
everything on hold?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Are we going to go through, I mean, the committee that was supposed, did you talk to an attorney? Was there,
Well, if that's what we're talking about, I texted Dr. Northway right after the meeting, the week after the meeting. And he texted me back and said he was going to talk to his attorney, the attorney he was talking.
He can give an
And then-
update on this if
and
you
then
wanna
I
jump to
I
that.
gotta refer it back, well, no, I mean, you were talking about now. So there was an exchange text mails and I haven't heard anything yet back from Dr. Northway on what is it, if he did talk to his attorney or not, or where we are.
I did, I forwarded it to Amy. Progress started being made as far as the attorneys are concerned. So we just sort of backed off for a little bit, because I mean, his response time has changed significantly. And it looks as though maybe there's a third attorney in the firm, Wendling.
Yeah.
Has been brought in as well, and so, you know, do you really want to change attorneys if things are going well?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, things haven't been going well because we've been looking for some sort of, I mean, he brought in all these ordinances at the end, but what we were looking for was a way to do these ordinances and have some way of enforcing them. How do we enforce them? Like on Crystal Air, how do we enforce these ordinances? We can have 1,000 ordinances, but if we don't have any way of enforcing them, well, they're not any good. Right?
Well, let me throw that back at you. What do we have now
What?
for enforcement?
We don't, but.
We don't have an enforcement officer and an ordinance for that?
No, we don't have anything that's working that we can actually enforce. You know, other than going to court on some things, we have no enforcement mechanism here.
That's usually what it is. I mean, it's usually community relations, it's talking to somebody, trying to, you know, can you work this out with your neighbor? And then ultimately, the enforcement is issuing citations and then going to court. And so we already have that.
Right, but it's gotta.
And so now we're working on the ordinances that he would or she would be enforcing and making sure that that's in there. And so we're doing it step by step.
Well, I'm not sure there isn't a better way of getting people to do things before going to court, circuit court or something.
Most of the recommendations
Right.
are that you form what is called a violations bureau. Okay, which is separate from, and the violations bureau issues warnings and so on and so forth, and then goes on from there. There's the whole seminars and books on it. For what it's worth.
Well, even in our officer job description, it goes through lots of steps that he is supposed to do before he ever gets to the serious stuff. So I think we've gotten that covered. So now, wouldn't you think that we've done that, all those steps at the Molyneux Road, the Crystal Air, I'm not sure exactly how we should label that. And now we're wondering, what do we do when the parties still are at odds with each other?
Right.
And in that particular case, I think the court did not allow for enforcement. It doesn't tell us what to do.
Right, but our attorney should be able to tell us, what do we do next then? What do we do?
Right.
We're at this impasse.
But we're also dealing at the same time with properties that are, you know, also in need of attention. So right now, it's not choosing one or the other, we're prioritizing. and trying to get to all of them, and that's why the nuisance thing is here now. And as far as, yes, I think probably the next firm, that if we hire somebody else, they're gonna have something slightly different. Does that mean we wait for a whole new? I don't know.
No,
I
just
don't think we
At one
wait.
point, I thought you were saying that this guy didn't have time to do all this, that some of it was just a timing thing. He didn't have time.
We did complain about the time,
Right, well, then
And then
he's
he-
gotta figure it out.
and he came back with lots of stuff, and he's been working with us. He's been responding. For example, this has taken up at least 2 weeks, major time of mine to get these contracts with CCC. So you should see the emails back and forth with that. So I feel like he's making an effort. I'm not saying that isn't the final decision. It's gotta be, do we want a bigger? I've always been the one that said, I think we need a bigger firm,
Right, well, I think we probably do too.
but we're also gonna pay a lot more.
Well, you know, we get, like
So
Crystal
we
Air, Crystal Air is still out there. We haven't solved that problem.
No, we haven't.
Well, what's our next step?
I think that, if I'm remembering correctly, lawyers basically saying that somebody's gotta sue somebody again, or we've gotta take the bull by the horns, or, you know, that there's a lot of work to be done still in figuring out how to deal with it.
Well, I want an attorney to tell me, like in a Crystal Air, what are the potential next steps? Do we at least tell these people then that they have to go to court themselves and sue or whatever, and we have nothing to do with it?
Except we're named as a party, that's the
Well, I
difficulty.
mean, well, what do we do then if we're named as a party? I mean,
We did the same thing with, an agreement with the RV park. I mean, it's really the objectors to the RV park. They named us as a something. I mean, I can't remember all the terms because I'm not a lawyer, but they were objecting to the RV park. It was those two parties, but we were named as an additional party, right?
No,
I had that wrong.
no. The township was directed by the court to issue an ordinance.
That's what, now we're back to Crystal Air now.
Crystal Lake.
Okay,
They were directed by the court to issue an ordinance. In the review so far by the attorney, the ordinance never says anything about consequences. What happens if there is a violation? But right now, the ordinance, if there is a violation, there's no direction as to what happens. Okay? Other ordinances give direction by saying this is a the violation is a civil infraction. And then there's a whole deal that automatically kicks in under the definition of civil infraction, civil violation. Okay? This particular ordinance as written doesn't do that. All it does is says, here's, the people are supposed to do this. Doesn't say, if you don't do these things, you're in violation. So there's no violation clause in the ordinance.
this is a template, or this is what Wendling has come up with?
Well, that's what we're asking him to do is review. And maybe my suggestion would be that Crystal Air maybe comes to the top of the list. Okay? Ahead of things like nuisances and things like that. That's what kicked this whole thing off. But the direction, as I understand, I haven't talked to them. I mean, I have to agree with you on this one. They dropped the ball badly. I started talking to them a year ago in August. They said they'd handle it. I reminded them time after time. They said they'd handle it. Came down to April and May, and the one guy that was saying he was gonna handle it said, well, I'm gonna turn it over to my partner. And, so there we were in June with nothing. So, having vented a little bit. it needs to be reviewed the whole concept of, okay, if there's a violation, then what happens? And it has to be put in, the ordinance has to be rewritten correctly. So I understand, to add the thing that says, okay, if someone's down there outside of their boundary, that's a violation, and it's a civil infraction, and therefore they are, when you write out the ticket, you can say they are in violation of ordinance so-and-so paragraph umpty spot. Right now, we don't have the ordinance doesn't give us that mechanism, it doesn't say there's a violation, so. That's my understanding. And then when we started looking at other ordinances, we have the same problem. That there's an ordinance, but it doesn't say what happens if there's a violation of the ordinance.
Well, that's the best explanation I've heard in a long time.
And I think that, it's subjective too, like which one comes first?
Well, I mean, all right, that's true, everybody has their own opinion, yeah, I think Crystal Air should be. That started a long time ago, and people have been asking us to do something, and we haven't gotten anywhere other than putting the monuments in, and hopefully that's helped.
We have done some
Right.
steps.
Right, but I wanna get to the final step here, like he's saying, the civil infraction or whatever it takes to go to the next step. Because if that works for that, it may work for these other ordinances that wanna do something.
And I'll just put in a word for the nuisance, because we've got a thing that's been going on for decades. And people have complained and wondered why we're so ineffective as a government that we can't do anything about that. Where not even the firefighters go in there without police escort now, and if you see what's looking, do you pay attention when you go by, or do you maybe look straight ahead, as you should as a driver, but it's getting worse.
Well, I mean.
And there's a matter of life.
Some attorney, then what can we do? About that?
We need to get the existing junk ordinance was not gonna do it, he said. We needed something stronger, and that's why he said, I'll give you the template. But we've got, in some cases, kids over there. I just think it's much more of a life and death situation. We've had fires, implosions in those trailers. They've had history of abuse. And I just think it's an important thing to do.
Well, I haven't looked at whatever you're trying to do here.
Yeah.
I haven't read it since you sent it out, but what, I mean, it's still, does it say something in there about what happens then when they're in violation, like he's saying? Does
I think it does.
Right, we charge them $500 a day. If they had $500, don't you think they would use it for something to help their situation?
I think a lot of people have come to the conclusion that there is nothing that we can do to change their minds, because we have been working with people for a long time. And that they can afford it, but so what do? You start a lien on their property, and that's something that we didn't have before, and this is.
I really find this quite, it's discrimination, basically. We're discriminating against, so Roy Ramel, he is a disabled veteran. His son is disabled.
Then he needs to clean up. It's not a matter of going after somebody for no reason at all. It's a dangerous
They may
situation.
not have the financial wherewithal.
You don't have to have the financial, because we've gone in and helped them, and what they've done is just exacerbated by,
But it's also filling a need. We don't have affordable housing. We don't have housing for those people.
I'm not trying to kick them out of their housing, nor is anybody else.
This
What we're
will.
trying, but
This will do that, and your liens will do that. If you
if
go
they
in,
don't clean it up. It's like it's a trading thing, like currency. Now, I'm not saying that this is perfect, this is what we're discussing, it's not you against me.
No,
We're trying to find
So,
out what can we do
I
to
did
help.
do some research on nuisance ordinances, and the US Senators Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow, they consider these to be discriminatory also. It just, they
Hey, I'm all
criminalize,
ears, what
they
would you like to
criminalize
have instead?
poverty and perpetuate inequities. Well, as Jed did mention, gentrification, we are moving out. We're moving people. We're displacing them, and what we should be doing is working on the ability for people to stay in their homes, instead of throwing tax liens at them that they will not be able to afford.
Who's been at the courthouse trying to do that? Anybody else here? I have.
So maybe we should come up with a way to assist residents with their home improvements or assist them in other ways.
We can't do that legally.
There are programs out there that suggest that local governments can.
Well, I've been told,
Then my suggestion would be that you form a department within the township to proceed to do that,
Okay.
okay? The Ramels and several of these other places are health, safety, and welfare issues to the rest of the community.
Right, and I do
So
remember
I
when,
understand your concern, okay? But talk to the people that live next to them. All right?
Mhm.
And they deserve recognition for health, safety, and their health, safety, and welfare.
well, we have to remember too, the county did try to evict them at one point and were powerless because they didn't have enforcement tools to do that
I never heard that. When did they try to evict them?
for their septic system.
No,
No,
they didn't, they never took action on it.
Right, they couldn't, they didn't have
No, they just refused to take action. Okay,
I think I do remember seeing the documents, the letters.
I do, I was there, I was involved,
Mhm.
I've toured the property, I've toured the property with the police, okay?
But if we go in and do cleanup, we do understand that they're not going to be able to afford it.
That's correct.
But so, I mean, if we had
That's
the
where,
ability to go in there,
that's where we stopped last time. We had a court order that allowed us to go in and clean up, but nobody wanted to pay for
well, that's where
it.
I'm
The township
suggesting,
didn't want to pay for it, so it stopped.
you know, why can't, I mean, are we allowed to go in and clean up the property? Maybe it costs 50,000, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. And clean everything up except the place they're living in right there, whatever, I mean,
They're living in campers.
all right, or leave the camper, but everything else we clean up. And then we have to hope that they don't go back and fill it up again. I mean, but at least we get rid of the junk and get rid of what we can in there.
which we've done,
What?
and
We-
in certain aspects
Remove
we've done.
tires.
We've removed tires.
To some degree.
Yeah, well, how many tires? We can look back and see how many tires, I
Yeah,
mean,
but that's one of many items.
right, I said one aspect of it.
Is this also the family that's got considerable drug problems?
Yeah,
Considerable what?
Drug problems is what he said.
Please remember that we are on tape. I just hope nobody here says anything slanderous or defaming because these are all assumptions.
no, Fire Chief Cederholm said he's had to go in there with a lot of narcon calls,
Right, but
that's data.
So instead of being adversarial on, 4 persons here, offer some solutions. Why are we coming up with this nuisance thing again, and then we're just hearing, no. You knew this was in the works all this time,
Right.
we've had a junk ordinance,
Right.
we've talked about the Ramels,
and I've seen
and
how ineffective it is.
we haven't ever tried this before.
Correct, but our current ordinance is ineffective.
Which is why, as a group, we decided to get a new one that was effective, right?
And I do regret voting yes for that. In hindsight, seeing,
Well, rewrite, as you said, it's
I
like if
don't
you
think
guys,
I don't want a nuisance ordinance. I think it's discriminatory. So I'm going to be voting no.
about anything, any aspect of this,
So first off, if you wanna, so I kind of view it as a conflict of interest for you, because your household derives income from real estate sales.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on, to preserve existing values. All right, so
Brooke, I think that's something that,
that's a valid point. I've had other residents state that. Keeping building materials outside.
can we just back up before you go on that? How does the rest of the board feel? Do you think that I have a conflict of interest because my husband has a real estate office?
No, I don't.
Bill, do you think?
No, I don't.
I think that I have gotten, when people have come to talk about this, they've been concerned about their property values.
Mhm.
So, and also,
That was just, that's my concern. That was one of them.
all right.
The other concern that I have that a nuisance is keeping building materials. There's quite a few things in here I just don't think is valid, it's too subjective. Mhm. So, and I think $500 for citation is quite steep, because I think our current is $100.
It's graduated.
Okay.
It goes from 1 to 2 to 3, and I think by law it can be raised to 5 now. And then it's that every day that it's not paid, so.
I don't agree with I just don't agree with that.
How about the dangerous buildings not the nuisance, the dangerous buildings one?
Well, if you want my opinion on all these, I haven't even seen these, and I would not vote for them tonight. I might vote for it a month from now, but
Right,
I'm
we
not
said we wouldn't be voting for it tonight.
well,
We're not prepared to do that because they're not even filled out. We're discussing tonight.
Right.
Yeah. So, so you haven't read this. Anybody else have anything? I had no objections to the dangerous structures ordinance. You've got any opinion?
I'm concerned for the neighbors, especially when there's drugs being done down there. And the influence of on other people, down there, children especially.
For the dangerous structures, I'm not certain any one of us here would be able to enforce this either. I mean, this is something I think for the county, that the building inspector should be doing.
Except we don't have jurisdiction at the county level. We don't have a vote in the county. This is for us.
But it does talk about what is permitted under building code for the state, so
Right, we wouldn't be making up our own building codes. We'd be using the states or
Right.
Yeah.
But does Grant have the ability to enforce this? I mean, does he know what proper bathroom ventilation looks like or anything
Well,
like
we'd have
that?
to, if we had a person assigned to specifically this, we'd make sure they were trained, yes. And it might be a matter of the educated person going along with the enforcement officer.
Okay, so if we
To inform
adopted
them.
this today, we have no way of enforcing it.
I would, if I could interject, I kind of have to agree with that. I think dangerous buildings should be at the county level.
And what happens then we don't have that? We've gone through this before with the septic, they won't do it, the buildings.
Well, then it becomes a matter of the townships trying to put pressure on the county to do their job. I mean, there are a lot of things the county doesn't do right now, but the populace ought to be standing up and saying, what are you people over here doing?
And maybe that's why they are repealing or rolling back their.
That potentially feeds into it. I mean, money is always the issue.
At one point, you recommended or suggested the need for a group that, what did you call it?
A department or something?
Violations Bureau.
Well, a couple of things. You know, I sympathize with displacing people off their property. And long ago, we tried to bring folks together, to see if there was any way to, as a community, address something. And that requires, some form of leadership. To get all these various entities in the county to act together on certain situations. You know, when we talked to the prosecutor, the prosecutor at the time said, boy, we would sure love to get this cleaned up. Because we have literally brought out stacks of folders just regarding,
All the legal actions against
you know,
this particular property.
but again, it takes, you know, you have to answer the question, and that's, you know, you have people living there, you may not agree with their standard of living, but where else are they gonna live if you know, if you ultimately displace them? And I attended a number of, at least 2 seminars where other townships came in and gave examples of how they went about displacing people off of property.
And our first lawyer, Dick Figuera, talked about the success he had in Empire,
And Empire as well.
and that it was very successful.
So to answer your question, Bill, you know, where do you get that leadership? And as I say, I think a lot of it has to do with getting the county to do their job.
Well, we do have an attorney who says this is something that the township can have.
Well, I appreciate that, but kind of going back to the thing, for dangerous buildings, that's what I'm talking about. Again, we're not the building department, we don't approve building permits. Any kind of an ordinance here would have to say something, in my opinion, would have to draw the county in. And say that the building has to be declared unfit by the county.
Is that a suggestion that you would give to amending this? Or you're saying that
I
don't
haven't
even,
really read through it, but I would think that anything like that, if it's a dangerous building, we should, you know, the ordinance should defer to the expertise of the county.
well, I can tell the attorney that these are some of the concerns and see what he says.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
That's fine, but I think we need to prioritize what the attorney to do, rather than do a whole lot at once. I would like to see Crystal Air issue, those rules.
All right, I've already said that I think this is my priority and that's your priority, so let's do them both.
Right, well, I'm saying we should decide as a board, what is our priority then? Is it dangerous, you think it's dangerous buildings?
I think the nuisance one is the bigger one.
Yeah.
But I think they go hand in hand because they're living in very dangerous things. They've had fires, they've had explosions over there. And so somebody in that trailer was exposed to all that sort of stuff. And I think that is tough.
So is that your top priority, is to do something about that property?
Well, I don't want to pick just on them because there's others in the area as well. But yes, I think these are 2 important ordinances. I'm not saying they usurp any others, but I think they're my priority. They involve health and safety of human beings. I'm not sure, you know, that we want to pit that against some other problem down at Crystal Air, for example. I know that emotions run high down there too, and we don't want anybody having an unsafe situation. We did take some steps though. So what should we do about this Crystal Air ordinance? What are the next measurable things we should be doing?
Oh, we have to have some action. There has to be a consequence of, if the ordinance doesn't state what the consequences are, and that's holding things up, And we need to do something with the ordinance. The attorney needs to do something with the ordinance.
Okay, and then Brooke started most of this conversation by saying, why are we doing any of these if we're gonna change lawyers? So what do you wanna do?
Well, I mean, if I'm not convinced that our current lawyers have the ability or the time to dedicate themselves to what we need to have done in a timely manner. It doesn't do us good to have attorneys that we have to wait 5 years to get something done.
Do you wanna suggest that we take the crystal air thing and give it to somebody else? Tell me
I'm
what
just-
you wanna do, I don't know.
Well, we took the step with Dr. Northway, we talked about getting another attorney and apparently that didn't go anywhere.
Well, did you check out any? I mean, what did you do?
No, he was supposed to and get back to me and now he got back to you. He didn't get back to me.
Well, how about if I put in my 2 cents again, that we not work with somebody that's local and small. We need somebody that specializes just in township law, and we go to a much bigger firm. There's about 4 of them that I've consulted with
Well,
before, and
I
I
know.
think that they're,
What I would like to see is if they want to be somebody wants to be our township attorney, have them come to one of our meetings and we have him discuss in general some of our situations and what would he do to take care of.
well, you can invite them. You,
Well, I know you mentioned, 4 firms that might be interested.
I can give you their names. And you can arrange all that. I personally would not choose just one. I wouldn't make one person our township attorney. I think that this guy, these 2 gentlemen in Bel Air do good things. But when it comes to big guns, I think we need a bigger firm.
You said 4 bigger firms,
I
correct?
said I consulted with them. I know of them.
No, well, we could ask each one of them to come to our meeting, either the same time or different times, it'd probably be better at different times.
Google it and say, what are the top 4 firms in Michigan that
Well, I
do
can do
township
that.
law?
I mean, you're telling me you've already done it, so let's just contact them and have them come to our meeting.
I'll give you the names and you can contact them.
All right, fine, but I mean, I think it should probably come from the township supervisor.
I can't do everything. That's why we're having committees, subcommittees that do some of the work.
Well, give me the 4 firms and I will call each one of them and ask them if they have an interest in our township and if I do, I have to have the ability, the authority to give them a date, and time to come.
Yeah,
So is the board gonna vote to have me do that?
don't know.
Do you have an RFP from previous attorney services when you were looking?
I'm not sure that we did. I think you and I were part of the committee before. Do we have an RFP?
No.
I think we had our own list of criteria that we were looking at, which was local. I remember that being one of them and so forth.
Yeah, that's all.
Had to be recommended by somebody else,
Right.
things like that.
How much money's already been spent on these ordinances, the
Don't know,
current attorney?
don't know.
We're
They're
not,
gonna dump and start all over again and.
well, we haven't paid for either of the 2 ordinances yet, not until we.
We just went from
Well-
paying again and paying even more.
We've paid over $1,700 this last month in attorney fees, but everything,
Yeah.
so, but that was, Judy had some suggestions also for attorneys.
For attorneys?
Yeah.
You might also ask, sorry.
Karen?
Can't remember the first name. Our county representative was. And I don't know the details, but I know that Tim Figuera was with his father, Dick Figuera, has now joined Micah Myers. And the ad in the paper, last week's paper was a 4-page ad saying that Tim Figuera was in the new Micah Myers office in
Manistee.
Empire. Oh, I guess it was Manistee,
The firm is in actually the firm's in Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just saying the county is, not only is the county, but Benzie Township, all that kind of having to deal with the same thing is, it's unclear whether, their work automatically goes with Tim, or they want to go through the process of choosing another attorney.
So would it be your recommendation that we reach out to this particular individual and invite him to?
Well, I'm just noting that that's what's happened, and there are other, the county and Benzie Township are having to deal with potentially coming up with a request for proposal, if you will, or an invitation to talk about services for a new attorney. And so we might counsel with them as to what they're doing in terms of a request for proposal, for lack of a better term.
Do you think you could do that?
Well, I mean, if people will email me the names of these firms, you know, I'll contact.
Well, or find somebody else that has a template for an RFP. You know, in other words, the criteria that we would be asking and putting out as, you know, this is what we want.
Well, I mean, we want a lot. I mean, we want not just about ordinances, it's about township government.
Right.
Someone has
So the
experience in town.
request for a proposal. Yeah,
Well, I would just talk to them on the phone first and see if they have an interest and then get back to you guys, but. Well, send me your names and this guy's, Brooke, do you know how to contact him?
I do.
I'll contact him.
All right, so, anybody else want to do anything more on nuisance or dangerous structures at this time? The next thing is procedures and policy. We were gonna do records. Anybody prepared to do that? How about the job descriptions?
Do you have yours?
Yes,
Can we see it? Use it as a template?
no, I want you guys.
But I gave you mine.
Well, I'm talking about the clerk and the trustees. And then we'll share them all together at the same time. Any new business at this time? Public comment? Board comment? All right, at this point, at 8:47, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.
You guys do a lot of work.